Question, what do you want to do? Do you want to take a chance and risk getting knocked out?
Oh my goodness!
Oh!
Wow!
Wow!
It is all over!
Hey guys, welcome to Big Facts, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 best UFC lightweight champions of all time. Before we begin, be sure to subscribe our channel and press the bell icon to get notified by our latest videos. Let's begin. Number 10. Sean Sherk. There are two men on this list that failed to successfully defend their title, yet Sean Sherk places below both of them. Current champion Islam Makhachev isn't included on this list as his title reign has just started. That leaves us with 10 champions for this top 10 list, and Sean Sherk occupies this place comfortably. Sherk won the title by beating Kenny Florian in a tournament at UFC 64 for the vacant title, and was the second champion in the division's history. He even defended the title against Hermes Franca at UFC 73, but would be stripped of his title in late 2007 after getting caught doping with anabolic steroids. Getting busted on a doping violation in the pre-USADA testing days is an achievement that none of the other fighters can brag about. But that is a distinction that will always harm the outlook of a champion. Number 9. Eddie Alvarez.
Eddie Alvarez!
MMA fans for years had been heaping praises on the king of the underground Eddie Alvarez. All of those praises seemed warranted when Alvarez took the belt from Rafael dos Anjos at a UFC Fight Night in 2016 via first-round TKO. But then Conor McGregor happened. Alvarez had seemingly cemented himself as an all-time lightweight GOAT across promotions. But Alvarez fell victim to the Conor McGregor hype train in his first title defense. He would not challenge for the title again and is now trying to find his feet in one championship. Number 8. Conor McGregor.
I can make you rich, I change your formula if you fight me into celebrate.
I'm not playing here. I'm not playing.
We're not here to take part. We're here to take over. Not a man alive that can come on this soil and be me.
Conor McGregor is an all-time UFC draw. However, he isn't an all-time UFC fighter. The first two-division champion in the UFC clinched that status when he went up to 155 as featherweight champion, and knocked out Eddie Alvarez at UFC 205. But that win was the last high point for McGregor in the cage. Conor would forfeit the featherweight title and be stripped of the lightweight title before registering a single defense as he went to box Floyd Mayweather, since his UFC return against Khabib Nurmagomedov at UFC 229. Conor has gone 0-3 in lightweight competition. He outranks Alvarez by virtue of having beaten him for the belt. Number 7. Anthony Pettis. Anthony Pettis went from internet darling to UFC champion at UFC 164 in his hometown of Wisconsin when he beat longtime rival Benson Henderson for the title. Pettis was someone the UFC marketing machine was fully behind, and the title win elevated Pettis to superstar status, at least temporarily. While Pettis has always been a very dangerous fighter, his reign as champion failed to be what people expected. He successfully defended the belt against Gilbert at UFC 181, but would lose it months later to the man who comes next. Number 6. Rafael dos Anjos. Rafael dos Anjos is one of the most underrated fighters in recent UFC history. Many fans in 2021 may be shocked to know that the current welterweight fighter was once the king of the lightweights. Dos Anjos earned that honor at UFC 185 when he dethroned Anthony Pettis via a 5-round unanimous decision. Dos Anjos outranks Pettis on the same basis Conor outranks Alvarez, but RDA didn't have the same cultural impact as champions like Pettis and Conor. RDA successfully defended his title against ageless wonder Donald Cowboy Cerrone before falling to Alvarez in swift fashion. RDA may have another title challenge left in him, but that will be extremely tough in the competitive welterweight division he is now in. Number 5. Jens Pulver. Throughout UFC history, inaugural champions get a bad rap because of perceived lower competition or easier paths to titles. While that is empirically correct, Jens Pulver seems to be an exception to the norm. Still regarded as one of the best lightweight fighters in history, Pulver took a big step in establishing that legacy when he beat Cole Uno at UFC 30 to become the inaugural UFC lightweight champion. Pulver would defend his belt against Dennis Hamilton and the prodigal BJ Penn at UFC 33 and UFC 35 respectively. He would never lose his championship, as he left the UFC on a contract dispute in 2002. Number 4. Benson Henderson. one of the most entertaining fighters in divisional history. Benson Henderson brought the best out of his competition inside the UFC octagon. He ended the reign of the seemingly unbeatable Frankie Edgar at UFC 144 in Japan via unanimous decision. Bendo would have a great run, defending the title 3 times and matching the existing record for most defenses set by BJ Penn and Frankie Edgar. In this run, he beat Frankie Edgar again, Nate Diaz, and Gilbert Melendez. However, his history-making title defense turned sour when old rival Anthony Pettis tapped him out in the first round at UFC 164. Number 3. Frankie Edgar. Frankie Edgar is one of the fighters that deserves a chunk of credit in proving the viability of lighter weight classes in the UFC. Edgar became the champion of the division at UFC 112 when he unseated BJ Penn via unanimous decision. Edgar would go on to defeat the former champion Penn again at UFC 118 before putting on one of the greatest trilogies in the history of the sport against Gray Maynard, defending his title twice and seeing one draw. He would lose the strap to Benson Henderson and has since challenged for titles at both featherweight and bantamweight. Edgar is truly a beast and an all-time great. Number 2. BJ Penn.
He really is one of the few guys that can say that he was there from the beginning, and now he's seen the success that has come along with being a champion in the UFC.
BJ Penn may have had one of the worst fall from graces in UFC history, but he also did have one of the greatest peaks. People fixate on Penn's 7-fight losing streak to end his career, but the prodigy earned his nickname by being a sensation people hadn't seen before. The former welterweight champion Penn became lightweight champion by beating Joe Stevenson for the vacant title via rear naked choke at UFC 80. Penn would successfully defend his title thrice against Sean Shirk, Kenny Florian, and Diego Sanchez. He would also challenge George St. Pierre to do what Conor McGregor achieved in 2016. In 2009, Penn lost his belt to Frankie Edgar and is winless since 2010. But his title reign is one of the most dominant in the division's history. But the most dominant. Number 1. Khabib Nurmagomedov.
I wanna fight for your chicken because this is number 1 easy fight in lightweight division.
Say what you will about Khabib Nurmagomedov. His title resume blows everyone on this list out the water. Khabib is also tied for most title defenses in divisional history with 3, but he had incredibly tough competition for all his title defenses. He became champion after beating Al Iaquinta at the controversial UFC 223 in Brooklyn. His first title defense saw him end McGregor Mania at UFC 229 in the best-selling card in UFC history. He then beat current number 1 contender Dustin Poirier at UFC 242. To top it off, he beat the man that vaporized Tony Ferguson in Justin Gaethje at UFC 254 and beat him with ease and then retired. Khabib left the sport undefeated and arguably the greatest lightweight champion of all time. Thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe our channel and press the bell icon to get notified by our latest videos.